This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Roshan Senanayak.
What's up, listeners? Welcome to Season 4 of Inspiring Design with Roshan Senanayak. This is where the best of the best brands, experts, change makers, and thought leaders come together to share their valuable insights, experience, and knowledge, all centered around the growth sector in advanced manufacturing within Industry 4.0, encompassing various industries, technologies, skills, knowledge, trends, as well as stakeholders, all the while linking it back into education within schools and universities. Welcome to today's episode, and we have a great topic and a guest in store for you. Today's episode is all about the mining and exploration sector. So to talk through this topic, I have here with me one of the leading experts and minds in the mining sector, Kate Dickson. Kate is the Queensland Director for the Association of Mining and Exploration Companies. She's got a strong mining and business background in stakeholder engagement, strategy and advocacy, and not only that, she brings a wealth of experience and energy to AMEC. Kate works with stakeholders to deliver the best outcomes for the different AMEC members and the resources industry in Queensland. So prior to joining AMEC, Kate worked for the state government and ASX-listed resource companies across a number of different projects. So not only that, she has a proven history of achievements working in both public and the private sector. So she's the right lady for this job. Let's get straight into it. Kate, welcome to Inspiring Design. Can we start off with a little bit of background about yourself? What's your story?
I grew up in Newcastle, New South Wales, looking at the Hunter River, seeing all the coal ships come and go.
Yeah.
And it was just a natural thing to be around the mining industry when I was young. And so it was a logical progression for me to be interested in the mining industry. So when I was at high school, I studied geology for year 11 and 12. I had an awesome geology teacher, Mrs. Hayden.
Yep.
And remember her well. And then headed off to uni and went straight to uni from high school and studied geology. And then from there, it was a bit of a rocky road. So I'd always knew I wanted to be a geologist. And then once I finished uni, the tech boom was on. Yeah. So there weren't many jobs for graduates in the mining industry, particularly in geology. So that was a real shame. Yeah. But in my final year at uni, I did honours with geophysics. So I had a good data analysis background. Yep. And I ended up at Telstra working as a business analyst. So I was there for 10 years and always, following the careers of my friends that stayed in the industry and kept being geologists and doing their thing. And but I was really enjoying my time at Telstra and had 2 kids and had the maternity leave and, used all those benefits of being in a big organisation. And then one of my very good friends became CEO of a junior coal mining company, coal exploration company, sorry. Mm-hmm. And he just reached out to me and said, Kate, come and work for me. Come and do this. You've got the right attitude. You'll work it out. Yeah. And so I went and worked for that friend as a sort of like a desktop geologist, working on tenure, which is mining tenure, which is the under the Mineral Resources Act, what you need to have a mining authority or an exploration authority, and helping the geologists with their data, come back from the field, put that into annual reports back to the government. Then that company was acquired by a larger coal mining company and went to work for them, and that was heaps more fun because they had an actual operating asset. I ended up helping with exploration programs, joint venture arrangements with international companies and all sorts of things, working with traditional owners. it was a real great learning experience.
Sounds like you actually hit the job market just before the mining boom, so it was actually perfect time.
Yeah. And then, so then there was a boom on then, and then there was another bust.
Yeah.
And it went bad again.
Yeah.
But I managed to, because of the skill stacking I'd sort of done throughout my career, I was a bit of a generalist, so I could sort of adapt my skills to all sorts of things. I wasn't a particular specialist in anything, but could learn really quickly and adapt. So the company I was at the time ended up being down to 8 employees after having over 300.
Wow.
And it was really tough. So I decided to leave that company, which ended up being a really good decision because I ended up with the state government in Trade and Investment Queensland. And I worked for the Mining and Resources team in Trade and Investment Queensland and covered investments into mining, biofuels, hydrogen, and renewable energy to some degree. So I was talking to international investors who were interested in those sorts of projects in Australia, particularly in Queensland. So that was another awesome job where, an Japanese investor would come in, we're interested in a biofuels project and growing a plant to make ethanol or something. And so take them up to North Queensland and introduce them to people, and it was really fun experience.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of stuff there as well, particularly how government operates and how the process of government works, which helped me get this role with AMEC, the Association of Mining and Exploration Companies. So this role came up. That friend that offered me the first job out of Telstra said I should go for it and introduced me to the CEO, and I won the job, and it just seemed to align really well because I had the government experience, had the industry experience, and this role is like a advocacy and policy role for government. So taking industry experience and trying to convert that to tell the government what the industry needs and what government can do to help our industry thrive, but also taking the new legislation or new policies or regulations that government make and interpreting that back to our industry on how they can implement it into their work.
Excellent.
So it's a sort of like a communication role between government and industry.
That's pretty cool. And obviously that becomes like a knowledge base for almost the sector between the different stakeholders. So I'm actually loving what you're putting down. And so in terms of what the mining industry is all about, I feel like the right lady is sitting in front of me. So in your definition, what exactly is mining?
Mining, in my definition, is basically just extracting things from the earth. But there's so much to that. There's exploring, there's the community and traditional owner side of it, there's the you explore and then you discover. So there's the discovery phase, and then you turn that discovery into a mine, which is a whole huge process,
operation,
with, environmental impact statements, baseline studies, all sorts of things. Then there's the actual extraction, the processing, the using the minerals, the recycling them, and then going back in and rehabilitating. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously everything that we're using as a natural resource, there is some form of mining involved. Is that right?
Yes, basically everything we use is either grown or mined.
Yeah.
So it comes out of the ground in one way or another.
Yeah.
I think water and oxygen are the only things that, when you think about it, fall from the sky or come from the air.
True. And obviously that's, I think, the perception that a lot of people might not be, they might see things but not be 100% aware of. So when we're looking at the mining industry as a whole, what are its capabilities as a broader picture? And then obviously you might have more specificity within your role, but as a whole, what are its capabilities?
Well, mining provides solutions for Australia and the world. It solves problems. So strong economies are generally well endowed with natural resources. And in Australia, we are geologically blessed with all the things we need and minerals we need to live how we want to live, and also to decarbonise our future.
Yeah.
So we need mining to lower carbon and to have a high technology future. So that's the capabilities. So like we touched on before, almost everything we use is either grown or mined, and we need mining for energy, including renewables. So all our renewable energy needs mining, even pumped hydro, because you need the pumps and the concrete. That's all mined.
Yeah.
And we need it for transport, healthcare, agriculture. Agriculture has mined material for fertiliser through potash and phosphate. Any infrastructure buildings, all needs mining.
Yeah. Pretty much all the built environment that we're seeing.
Even the gyprock on the wall here.
Yeah, that's true. And so how did this industry compare to, let's say, 20, 30, 50 years ago? How has it, what's the main difference, do you think, the way you work now, the way miners actually work now compared to back then?
I think the industry has definitely seen an improvement in gender diversity.
A very important one.
Which is great for both industry and the people in it. So I think there wouldn't be many people that wouldn't consider having more diverse people from cultures and gender would benefit from having a diverse outlook on things. So that's a big change. In the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen exponential growth in the resources industry, with more projects being expanded and developed. And because of this, we need more people, but also there's an increase in the approvals, environmental approvals and of compliance required for those mining projects. So the biggest change has been the number of people required to do things, because there's quite different sorts of roles needed now compared to in the past.
So what you're saying is there's actually more career opportunities available, more and more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what are your predictions for the future in the next, let's say, short-term future in the next 2 to 5 years, compared to maybe in the long run, 20 to 30?
In the next 2 to 5 years, I think there'll be a significant shortage in qualified people for the industry. With the low community sentiment for the mining industry, it means people aren't choosing careers in extractive industries anymore. We need smart people to join the industry and help make mining responsible and sustainable. This is how we can decarbonise our future, and it's going to happen, and it isn't going to happen through protesting.
Yeah.
We need smart people to actually get involved and work for organisations like AMEC who contribute to government policy making. You can become a mining engineer to work out how to extract minerals in the most efficient way with minimal disturbance footprint, and become an environmental scientist and work on the best way to manage water and vegetation around mine sites and rehabilitated land. So that's where I see the opportunity next 2 to 5 years.
Yeah. And is it possible to make predictions on what it might be in the longer future?
Organisations like the International Energy Agency are making predictions about what's going to be needed for the electrification and decarbonisation in the future. And the projections of minerals needed for the electrification and green tech means we'll need even more mines, and also need to go back and reprocess tailings. I don't know if you know, but tailings are the leftover material after something's mined. And with newer technologies, we can go back and reprocess these and extract more value from them. So
awesome.
I think that's where we're going to go.
Yeah, and I think it's important to find these kinds of refinements in the bigger whole picture, because it makes a huge difference, and that's where the creativity comes in, that's where the smarts comes in. And so you've already mentioned the word technology a little bit, so it's one of the things that's part of Industry 4.0 and 5.0 and a big focus towards how rapidly technology has evolved and changed the way we're learning or the way we work. And even in education, it's very different compared to even 10 years ago. what's your thoughts on how the technology and automation plays a role within the evolution of the mining industry?
I think it'll play a significant role. There's a little bit of concern in the industry that people will lose jobs.
That's a global one.
Yeah, and I just think that's crazy. The automation will make things safer. There'll be less risk to humans and the environment in general. We won't lose jobs. We'll need robot operators and mechanics, and we'll become more efficient. I mean, before there were computers, everyone thought people would lose jobs and we would work less hours because things would become quicker and easier. But look what happened. We just do more things with less time.
Yeah. And I think that's important to hear from experts such as yourself, because it's that evolution of job losses from the previous industrial revolutions of how we used to work. And like you said, technology is making things easier for us to do things and faster. And therefore, those thinking patterns and those jobs are being obsolete, but doesn't mean it's actually not evolving into newer and more methods. And as you mentioned, there's more career opportunities now more than ever. So just requires a different set of skills. How do the technologies, such as getting a little bit specific here, things like robotics, things like VR, AR, IoT, data, AI, how do those things, or even drones, I would imagine would play a role in this?
Yeah.
How are they integrated into mining?
Yeah, well, mining uses everything from mechatronics to machine learning. The obvious technology you mentioned is drones. People use drones for exploration and for environmental monitoring. So drones have just become a standard piece of equipment for the exploration industry, and also the state government's also using drones to monitor environmental compliance and to help do baseline studies, and the industry is doing that as well. Using I don't know what they're called. They're not like they're aircraft. I should know this. They're aircraft.
That's right.
That can carry geophysical equipment on it, so it can do monitoring without a person in it.
Yeah. So. And I think their output ends up being a highly detailed CAD file or even a cloud point map, which is where the big data comes in, and being able to then process and work with those elements.
Yeah.
That's where it's very different compared to 5-10 years ago, where we might have used just CAD and manually drawn something.
Yeah.
So this is where 3D scanning and all of these elements are coming in. So I'm loving that. How can technologies such as VR, AR fit into this?
So VR and AR would fit in with robotics and remote operating equipment.
Is that happening in Australia at the moment?
To some degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it hasn't become as mainstream and common. It's on its way, or do you think it'll evolve into something else?
I think it's on its way. I think the main way it's being used at the moment is if there's been an issue in a mine and you don't want to send a person in.
Yep.
So for safety and recovery reasons, which is a valid reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Just to backtrack on the big data side of things, the Department of Resources announced last week that they've been working with the Queensland Sustainable Minerals Institute for the last 18 months, compiling, analysing and pulling together data for a free digital tool for explorers to use. So that means that people can go in and interrogate this data and use it by looking at existing mines that are already operating and look at what the geological conditions were before that mine got up and running, and look for those geological conditions in other places to try and work out, what's similar. Could we go to this new place that has similar features and see if we can get a similar sort of mine out of that situation. Another really cool thing one of our member companies is doing is using a laser for ore sorting. So one of our members in North Queensland called EQ Resources have a tungsten mine. And it's not an operating mine. They're not digging any new rocks out at the moment. They're going back and reprocessing tailings. So they run the tailings through this ore sorter that's got a laser beam that tracks which bits of rock have high value tungsten and which don't. And so they send the good rocks off to get processed again, and they send the non-tungsten rocks off, and that becomes a quarrying product for road base. So the benefit for that is it means that the Transport and Main Roads Department don't need to go and make a quarry somewhere else. They don't need to it kind of offsets a disturbance. So you don't need to dig a new quarry. You've use the rocks from an existing mine to use in a road base.
That's awesome. And obviously it would have been a collective of minds that came up with the creative solution to repurpose the actual tailings. That's where I think the creative problem solving comes in. And given that a lot of the listeners are within the education sector, I always love to ask the question on how design thinking plays a role in this. That's primarily my focus personally, coming from my own background, but I love to understand how design thinking plays a role within the mining industry, because I've already heard the patterns in terms of these new ways of thinking and where the technology integration happens. What are your thoughts on how that fits within the mining sector?
I think for almost any role, any job, you need creative people, and converting the creative ideas into design solutions is where design thinking comes into it. So there's the ideas people, there's the artistic even, but you don't need to be an artist to be creative. I'm terrible at drawing. I definitely think about things differently. And sometimes the person that comes up with the idea doesn't know how to implement the idea and doesn't have the execution skills, and that's where you need different people with different ways of thinking in organisations. So I guess design thinking takes the creative ideas and turns it into something that can be used in the business. Valuable
advice. And obviously one of the important things in design thinking and its values is empathy. Do you think empathy plays a big role within the mining sector, or how that might be? Because I wanted to ask this question simply because of the fact that the mining industry is usually perceived in a very, I think, hard or, laborious and almost a boys industry, but that perception needs to be changed, and the importance of empathy, importance of a diversified workforce, integration of technology, importance of creativity, all of these elements are now overlapping. What are your thoughts on the role of empathy within your experience?
I think you've always got to put yourself in other people's shoes, and no one goes to work to do a bad job. You don't wake up in the morning and go, I'm great, today I'm going to go and ruin the environment. No one goes to work thinking that. And I just think empathy plays a role in that. Why are we doing this? Why are we mining things? Why are people passionate about this industry? And it's because if people want things, if they want electricity, if they want cars, if they want iPhones, someone's got to dig it out of the ground for you.
And the designer has to go through the manufacturing process to actually get it done.
And the designer, I guess the design role there is to use those materials in the most efficient way and with the least waste.
And that's where I think a lot of empathy towards the environment, empathy towards the end user, and anyone who's actually involved from the mining process to the end product actually needs to have that level of thinking. So that's great. Now, what are some of the career pathways and employment opportunities possible within your industry at the moment, as of, let's say, 2021? We're almost at 2022, but what are your thoughts on that within your sector?
There's so many jobs. I don't know where to start. The main areas of mining are exploration, mine planning, community engagement, technology, extraction and processing, and the environment. And like all companies, there's also the business side of things. So there's the accountants and HR and lawyers and that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
it's huge. The main yeah. We touched on it earlier. There's just so much growth. And the roles that exist today they'll evolve.
They've evolved. Yeah.
So as long as you've got a good background, no one's going to be qualified for stuff that we don't know exists yet.
Correct.
So I think skill stacking is really important and being open-minded.
Yep. Perfect. And one of the recent very interesting articles, it was a video article that I was researching about when it came to mining sector and how mining sector is now going beyond the world and looking at mining actual asteroids and meteorites. And this was very, very cool. And obviously people like Richard Branson and all the big companies going outside the world at the moment, exploring and pushing those boundaries, are talking about exploring and mining resources in outer space. And that just adds a whole array of new challenges to solve and new problems to solve. And from what I read in the article, one of the meteorites that are within our reach can feed the Earth because it has more resources 4 times what Earth already has. So imagine being able to actually reach that and then bring that back here and being able to walk through those challenges to get to that outcome. So it's amazing. And I think it's a very exciting industry given the fact that it's how it's evolving now to this 4.0, 5.0 version. And so one of the things that I really wanted to ask you is, do you think the students now in primary school and high school are the ones who are going to be potentially doing those things in the next 10, 20 years? Do you think the current education system is aligned with to facilitate the future of your industry? It's a bit of a tough one.
Yes and no. I think students today are getting mixed messages. They're getting taught about climate change and our impact on the environment and partially what they can do to help, but not the whole story. So renewable energy and electric vehicles are part of the solutions, but where is that stuff going to come from? And so they're getting pushed the
one-sided message,
but not how. Where is this stuff going to come from? Yep.
Valuable question. And I think if you as a future mining industries expert, if they're looking at it, there's a lot of problems to solve on that same other side of that coin. So I'm glad that you presented that question. So what would be your advice for students and, let's say, graduates?
This is personal advice. Be curious. I know I should say study a mining related discipline, and you should, but more importantly, be curious. Curious people are lifelong learners, and lifelong learners will always be successful.
Very beautifully said. And what do you think are the key skills that will take to succeed within your industry? Curiosity, of course.
Curiosity and problem-solving skills and being able to adapt. Because it's, some of this is predictable, but some of it's not. And we need smart people to come and help solve these problems. And if the smart people are going and becoming lawyers to litigate the mining industry instead of getting on the inside and helping sustainably source minerals for renewable energy, then it's misplaced.
I think that's good because it's a refreshing change and almost a cry for help in a way towards the big picture of the industry. And I'm very glad that you can frame it that way. What are your thoughts for and advice for teachers and the educators that are putting this information in front of the future miners?
Try and tell both sides of the story and be open-minded. I think people are more likely to make a difference from inside the tent than from outside screaming in. Encourage students to get involved, help change policies by understanding the process and make a change and help make changes to legislation.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So if students or teachers want to learn more about the mining industry, what are some resources you can point them to? Where are some places they can actually go and learn? Are there any online links, websites, books, people to talk to that you might recommend?
Look, I've got a spruik AMEC and
Absolutely,
a campaign that we've been running called More Resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
It's aimed at the everyday person, because within the mining industry we're really good at patting each other on the back about how we're doing such a good job with providing the minerals, food, renewable energy and technology, but the community clearly has a different perspective on that. So this More Resourceful campaign is looking at the different things that the mining industry does, like, mining potash locally for avocado farms instead of importing potash from China and that sort of thing. So the AMEC More Resourceful website is a good resource. Another good thing to check out is the QMEA, which is run by the Queensland Resources Council, and this is a program that's placing students into pathways into the resource sector and other science, technology and maths industries. So there's a couple of these QMEA schools around Brisbane and regional Queensland, so I definitely suggest checking out QMEA and trying to get them into your school. And another awesome resource is a publication called Make Your Career in Mining, and that's from the Minerals Council of Australia, and that's a really fantastic resource that's colourful and got really cool things in it, like a day in the life of someone that works in the industry and that sort of stuff. So there's a couple of things to check out.
Brilliant. We'll drop those links into the show notes, guys, so make sure you go and check those out. But thank you so much. I've personally learned a lot about the mining industry today, so thank you so much for giving up your time.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
That's it for today's episode. Now it's time to take action and build on the learnings to get inspired. First up, jump onto roshansenanayake.com/podcast and check out the show notes, links, and other relevant learning materials from this amazing episode. Next, if you learned something new today, click that subscribe button and set yourself up to receive live notifications on future episodes, as well as more opportunities to learn from our amazing guests, brands, and speakers. Last but not least, it's time to have your say. Join the conversation and share your thoughts and feedback on today's episode with a review, all while joining many others with a 5-star rating for Inspiring Design with Roshan Senanayake. Till next time.